welcome along to another episode of the LOPSided Podcast, the podcast for legal operations professionals by legal operations professionals. Today, I'm joined by Shakeel Sameja from UBS. How are you doing?
Very well. Nice to see you, John.
Good to see you. So, tell us a bit about you, Shakeel. Tell us a bit about your background, give an elevator introduction to you. What brings you to your current role?
So I'm Shak. I work in the legal space. My background is in project management and management consultancy. Currently, I'm working at UBS for their legal department, where I work on legal project management, legal operations, and problem resolution. So
Wow.
we map out the kind of processes and look at the landscape today and what the landscape should look like tomorrow.
Amazing. And so these three questions I asked all guests. Who's your hero?
Who is my hero? Good question. Professional hero or anyone in general?
Could be either or.
The football player Mateus from Germany.
Lothar Mateus.
Yeah, that's the one. Him and Ian Rush, I think. I
Wow.
always aspired to be as good at them as they are in whatever I chose to do.
That's amazing. And what is your greatest accomplishment?
Professionally, I think my greatest accomplishment is the work that I do and building on that. I got the opportunity at WilmerHale to enter the kind of work directly in the legal space. That was in commercial arbitration and disputes resolution, and that's expanded into trial support, legal operations, to what I'm doing today.
Okay. And which song would you sing on a team karaoke night out?
Well, I don't know. We were thinking about this with the group the other day. Take On Me was the one we chose.
Take On Me by Aha. So that would be a team effort, right? That's amazing. Okay, and what is the one job you'd trade your current role for without a second glance?
I don't think I really like what I do.
Okay.
It's very enjoyable. But
Okay.
if I didn't end up in this space, I'd probably be doing something outdoors, kind of like a mountaineer or hiking, rock climbing, or something like that.
Oh, okay. So we're here today to talk about, the topic is how LegalOps functions can help their law firms enhance their client value proposition. So your role is clearly one that kind of, I often talk about the bow tie principle. So you have the in-house team here, and you have your legal team here, and somewhere in this bow tie, the knot, you get yourself or the project manager at a law firm that is really the kind of conduit between how a lot of these things happen and the improvements that are made. So I just wanted to touch on that and delve into what a typical day looks like for you in your role.
So we do a lot of problem identification and categorization and work towards resolving them, but what we don't look at solutions first. So really what we're trying to do is make sure we understand the end-to-end of what's being delivered and where the value is. So everything's value driven. Is it simple? Is it efficient? And are we collaborative in whatever form that could be, in an end-to-end way, to make sure we're really delivering value to the customer?
Okay. Wow. And what's the most challenging part of that?
So in our role, we're always communicating and setting expectations. So the most challenging part is making sure the promise we offer, so when we're presenting something or delivering something, we're often making promises on a day-to-day basis. So the hardest part is making sure you commit and deliver on those promises.
And remembering all of the promises that you've
Yeah,
made,
that's
right?
it, and making sure that you're not over-promising. So one of the things that I think UBS, as a whole group, aspire to is to under-promise and over-deliver.
So it's a good mantra to live by. And what I find fascinating is you've actually worked both in-house and in a law firm, haven't you? So what would you say are the main differences for you in your role?
So the key difference is the customer.
Okay.
So when you're working in private practice or outside counsel, your customer is external, where our customers are the business and our investors. So when we spend money, we make sure we take on the mantra of treat it as your own money.
Okay.
And make sure you're delivering value. So different ways of how do we measure value and how do we deliver against the value that we want to drive.
And how do you measure value? It's an interesting question.
So typically, financial institutions measure value in terms of risk. So is it positive risk or negative risk? And we try to adopt the same kind of approach within legal. So often our transactional work is mainly around opportunities, and dispute resolution is mainly around threat exposure and minimising that.
Wow, okay. And are you seeing an increasing trend in clients partnering with their panel firms on legal operations initiatives? Is that something you've seen?
So legal operations and integrating with outside counsel, which for any corporate entity is your biggest spend within a legal department. So making sure that it's the value and the end-to-end, and that's where legal operations, they can come in and they can complement and provide efficiencies. So it's important that at the very first instance we define what we mean by legal operations in this instance or in this situation, and we depend and partner with our outside counsel firms, not just for their legal advice, which is what we expect as a standard, but also with our panel firms, that they're bringing in efficiency. That's where the legal operations teams come in. They say, look, these are the tools that you can use, these are the approaches that we can have, this is the journey planning along either the matter or our relationship together. So we're always driving efficiencies, and that's through disruption. So where the legal operations come into their own fold is they are subject matter experts in driving the business. So that's where the partnership takes place.
And how would that process work? So would you be, say, working, I don't know, on something internal, an internal kind of business optimization initiative around maybe a new technology, or you might be looking to think about kind of the strategy of the legal project management function. At that point, do you think to yourself as a business, somebody like UPS, do you think, okay, well, we've got panel firms here and panel firm X has a really strong LPM function, let's reach out to the firm and see if there's something they can do to support us in this? Like, is it something as process driven as that? Like how does that dynamic work?
It varies. So we work with a lot of legal project managers because that's the staple of our business, and they bring the business acumen. So what is the biggest disruptor, I would say, in the legal space today is not just the outcomes, but it's the journey and setting the expectations early on and measuring the value and being able to make informed decisions on good project management. So in matter management, that's LPMs. But there are other areas, finance, billing, technology adoption, which we have to be careful as we say, is there a problem that we need to adopt a technology form rather than say this technology, let's find a use for it. So various assets. So technology adoption is big. AI obviously is something that's coming to the fold, but we have to be measured and think about our approach. So this is where we come in and partner with organisations that are doing this as a staple on a day-to-day and seek their advice.
And you mentioned AI, and it's obviously it's the main disruptor that everybody's talking about at the moment. And there is a feeling in some parts of the industry that people are looking for problems to solve with AI as opposed to using AI to solve existing problems. Is that something you're seeing in-house as well? Is there this excitement to try and bolt AI onto something for the sake of bolting it on as opposed to really solving a problem?
Well, I think there's two sides to it. AI is a big disruptor. It's going to change things. What it's going to change and how it's going to change. Are we going to use LLMs? Are we going to use data models? You need some level of subject matter experts internally that can say when a problem is identified that they have enough experience and exposure to AI to say, I think for that problem, I might be able to lend a legal AI solution. But to get there, you have to develop SMEs. So right now there is, and quite rightly so, an investment in AI technology to create an understanding of how to utilise it. But as always, first you understand what's the problem, and then you look for solutions around it. And technology is one of those solutions. But we always look for what is the problem that we're trying to solve. Is it an opportunity? Is it a disadvantage if we don't fix it? We do something called impact effort analysis on these things. We explore various approaches. So one of the big things around what we do is process engineering, capturing end to end first what we're trying to do, what would be the best approach to doing it, and then we look for tools and solutions and potentially resources to canvas and fill in where those holes may be.
Wow, okay. And in terms of kind of tenders that go to law firms, are the in-house teams now kind of making it a prerequisite that there's an expectation that they like to see a law firm kind of tinkering with AI in terms of the progressive look to how that law firm's operating when they're thinking about partnering, or does it still really directly focus first and foremost on the quality of legal services?
I think legal service is always going to be the first and the foremost. It's like we work in legal, so ultimately what we're delivering is legal advice, in whichever facet, way or form. The legal operations, the technology, the finance, they all complement and support that function and drive efficiency. So I'm not in the technology space, so I can't speak to how we're utilising AI with our partners. It's probably something that will come into fruition probably a bit further down the line. I think where most people are is the investigatory stage, and with everything when you're researching, you're throwing stones at things to see where may it lend a hand. So when we do have bigger problems that we need to solve, those people that can provide solutioning are best placed to provide that solutioning. But we don't start solutioning, and we're not at solutioning in AI today. We are exploring its various facets. That's where I would say where we are. So I mean, it's important. I think it's important to us, just as it's important to everybody, is to make sure we're at the top of our game. Financial institutions use technology inside out. Not legal itself in our world is a small department compared to the rest of the business. So the business itself is probably adopting AI considerably more and faster, but still there's a lot of learning. So the AI space is interesting and it's topical, but I wouldn't say it's my primary focus. It's somebody's primary focus within the group, but not mine.
And interestingly, we touched on data, and I think in my experience, a lot of in-house teams and clients more broadly were on a journey of really trying to understand their data and their legal spend and the distribution of legal spend, and thinking about ways to really optimize that data for descriptive analysis in particular. And one area that obviously has come up with a lot of clients around being able to have a kind of gateway to understanding their legal spend is e-billing. And are you seeing a lot around that and the disciplines that's expected of law firms recording their time, and then how you're able at the back end to really harness that data into kind of data-informed insights for the firm?
Data management is one of the crucial things to us. We're looking at different ways to how we look at data, measure data. And it's funny you talked about AI previously, because we have some AI tools that are helping us with data management. Or we're exploring in that area. I'll have to introduce one of my colleagues that can speak about it more than I can. E-billing adoption is the standard now. It's not the exception, it's the expectation. And we drive firms towards good e-billing because it's expensive to do it the manual way, it's costly, and we can get more value in terms of the conversations that take place, because it's a good way of measuring what's taking place and understanding where there are key decision points. When certain pieces of work are done, we have real-time visibility of it, where our lawyers can then say, well, we've done this, we've spent money on this. Is our legal strategy the same day today as it was tomorrow? What's changed? what's the judges, what have the judges said? Is the value of the transaction still the same? So knowing those outcomes along with the cost of the outcomes is important to make further decisions, and that's what we're really trying to do is help decision makers make decisions with the understanding of data. And one of the big things there is visual data. So are we presenting data in a concise, palatable way to the right level of audience that we need to do?
It's a fascinating topic, and there's other podcasts that we have talking around data in more detail. But from my own personal experience being out at conferences, talking to clients around data, I think the challenge is, and you touched on it, quality data. And when I've had a conversation, John, look, we're really pushing law firms, we need to understand this e-billing data better, and we're just trying to get law firms to appreciate more that, just putting everything on the L100 code, which is, for our listeners, our viewers, it's like a general code on the uniform task-based management system, so the e-billing codes. And a frustration in clients around that, because ultimately that's the same as not having e-billing, because it's just a big cluster of data that hasn't been sorted into the right buckets. Is that a challenge you see, and how do you encourage law firms to be better at this?
So I think that encouragement comes in two parts. We have to take responsibility of defining what kind of data we want to see. Because our law firms are quite happy to be supported in that world, but they also need some direction. So that is one of my hot topics right now, is to get consistency. Yeah. So if we get consistency over our collection of data, then we can use that to understand what we've done in the past, and help us to inform a number of decisions that we make in the future. But without creating that consistency and what you say, the quality of data, and being able to use it in a systemic, repeatable approach to say there's like for like, so we don't have apples, pears, oranges, tangerines, and every flavour of fruit. We just say these are the 5 fruits, and we measure consistently against each one of them. Yeah, and then once we get that consistency done, you can get the basics done. You can say this is what we're doing on this activity, and you can start bringing in earned value management, which is a really important technique to say, what am I doing and how am I performing against what the expectations and the forecasts were to where we are today. And then once you've got that done, you can really build on that. We can start thinking of things like, what's net present values, what's discounted cash flow, what's value at risk. And being a financial institution, those kind of metrics really work with our seniors because they come from that discipline. So lawyers are talking words, but at some point we have to translate the words into risk, and that usually means translating into numbers so other people can understand. And that's the importance of data, is being able to use it in a measurable way and respond to the right audience in their language. So getting the consistency and the quality of data right allows you to expand on that in so many ways that we probably don't even know yet. So open one door to see another group of doors that you can open. But if you open a door and everything is just a bucket of stuff pouring out, then someone else has to unpack that. And in the world of efficiency, do more with less. It's having more structured and rigid and robust solutions in place.
Yeah, and kind of off subject, but I had to ask you this while I've got you here. But RFP, panel tenders. What's the one thing that all law firms could be doing better?
Scoping.
Well, look, didn't even need to take a breath or a thought. Is it really scope? Is it really just scoping?
At the outset, if you can get the scoping right and define the key issues, and we help with that, that helps the whole journey across. So lawyers, and not just lawyers, legal operations members as well, they're subject matter experts, and they're very, very smart, and we know that. And sometimes we don't need to know how smart they are, but we need to be able to take their knowledge, their expertise, their great work, and present it in a way that somebody else can digest in a shorter amount of time. And the higher up you go, the less space we have to sell to sell that story. So it's really, get it right at the beginning, and then when the horse leaves and starts the race, it's easy to know what's going on and measure what's taking place. But once the horse bolted, it's very hard to clear up everything and bring things together.
So I'm gonna back for the law firm here and be very obnoxious and say that one of my frustrations when I was working in law firms was always that we'd try and be really good on scope, and then we'd possibly lose out on price to somebody who was doing it cheaper. And then we'd generally, you get feedback, you talk to your clients, we'd find that they'd smashed through the scope once, twice, 3 times. And the price they'd originally agreed ended up being, way less than the clients ended up paying. What do clients generally do to kind of balance that out more so that it doesn't encourage that type of behaviour? A race to the bottom, get in the door, do it on a minimal scope, and keep changing the scope and actually end up charging the client a lot more.
Well, there's accountability, So one of the things we look at is the assumptions, or get out clauses. So if we're doing fixed fee agreements and things like that, then we look at them. We drive a meritocratic kind of onboarding, and we're pushing that. We call it a smart sourcing framework of how we onboard outside counsel, and there's a tendering process that is more structured and it's shared. So if we're saying one thing, everyone's saying the same. So it's a group tender. So we try and make it as fair as possible, and it gives the opportunities to say, hold on a minute, they might be pricing you. Let's just talk in hypotheticals. They might be charging you $10 less, but have you considered this down the line? And that's where the real experts come to the forefront to say.
Okay. So the value, so that focus goes to value as opposed to price.
Yeah, pricing is a part of value, but we're looking at value first. So are we getting not just value of money, but value for money, which is an important part. But are we getting value on the project?
Yeah.
The project has to be valuable. The outcomes has to be right. The quality of outcomes has to be right, and that's part of the scoping process. Is not just here's a list of objectives, this is what we're delivering against. There's a bit more in the how, and the who, and the what, and that's what we mean by scoping. It's not just the list of here's the 5 key issues that we'll work against, and we will charge you X amount of money. It's making sure that there's some thought process that's gone behind it, and then again, everyone gets the opportunity. And where things don't work out, outside counsel get the opportunity to come back to us and understand why, and that's where this that's where it's important for us as disruptors in the legal operations space to be that conduit, to be driving all of those things really forward, and to be the business acumen drivers. So we expect our lawyers to be the legal strategists, and they are the leads and the experts, and we know that they're good at that, but who's complementing them to work with the business? And that's where the legal operations team come in and really come to their forefront. So does that help answer your question?
It's a great answer, and I'm mindful we could go off on in another direction on this, but I want to bring it back to you. Final question. So you've spent a while now building, what I know to be a really impressive in-house function with some great people over there.
I've supported it.
You've supported it with some great people. We won't embarrass some of them, but we know who they are. What are the 3 pieces of advice you'd give to clients or legal operations professionals in-house starting on that journey to build a LegalOps function?
Make clear definitions. So understand what the needs are today. Again, define the problems or the opportunities that you're looking for. Define what your legal operations framework is going to look like, because the legal operations framework in one industry or one company may be different from another, and your immediate needs may be different. So focus on the low-hanging fruits, continual delivery, continual setting expectations and clarification. So in legal operations, you're talking to your legal advice, who's providing that advice, how they're going to provide that advice. Do you have a good structure to do that? Are you reporting and delivering to the business what it's asking for in terms of legal advice? So definitions are key upfront and setting expectations. Now ask questions.
It's great advice. Any other little pearls of wisdom? I mean, that's a pretty comprehensive one, isn't it? Because that does kind of span into other areas.
I mean, I could go on for quite a long thing, but if I say start by asking questions, capture things quickly, and get to a point where you're communicating with people outside of a blank page. So do your homework.
And focus on the low-hanging fruit with another one, right? Make some, notable change, right?
Someone told me a long time ago, and it really resonates with me. Access delayed is access denied. So the sooner you can give something back to somebody, the sooner they're going to start buying into what you want. And because we're disruptors and we work in a traditional discipline, law changes very slowly. If you look at it, a lawyer 200 years ago, there's probably not that much difference in their approach to what they do today. There's different technologies that help them do it faster, there's more data that they have to manage. So, we're really trying to partner with not just your client that you may not see, but you're partnering with every single person on your team is also your customer.
Yeah.
So if you're delivering against them, that's your subordinates, that's your colleagues that are lying beside you, that's your internal customers, so your finance team, your technology team, the LegalOps, the LPMs, the lawyers themselves, and the client. They're all your customers. So if you look at it in that way, I think you can't go wrong.
Great. Shakeel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Shaq, so the next part of I usually do on the podcast is Mythbusters. So this is really around separating fact from fiction, things that you hear at the conferences, the corridors, if there's any truth to it. And because we're highly technical on this podcast, I'm going to give you this button.
It's like Room 101.
Now, simply, if the statement I read out you don't agree with, hit the button and just tell me why. If you do agree with it, yeah, same thing. Just really want to hear your views on some of these. So the first one is, working in-house in a LegalOps function requires you to be a multifaceted expert to adapt to different types of operational challenges and opportunities. Is that true?
I think in today's employment market, that would be generally true across the board. So I would say yes.
Okay. Clean and concise.
I still think you want to develop your specialisation. I think that's important. SMEs and knowing what they do. I think they call it the T-shaped employee.
Yeah.
I'm careful of using buzzwords. If you have a real passion that you're doing something that you're doing really well, you'll be employed for that. There's no definite about that. But if you want to be adaptable, if you want to be a problem solver, you do have to be multifaceted. And in my world, being able to adopt and learn things quickly, at least to a rudimentary level, is important in order to frame those discussions and conversations.
Okay, so that's a true one. All right, so the second one, procuring legal services is no longer just about the best quality legal advice, it's about the wider value proposition that law firms present.
100%.
Okay.
Value-driven service delivery is definitely the way forward.
So, a tidbit there would be, don't just speak about how good your legal service is, talk about what else comes with that, the piece around the edges, or is it around the value of delivery? Yes, that we deliver great legal services in the sense of we give great legal advice, but here's how we deliver it in an effective and efficient way.
I'll give you some quotes which aren't mine.
Okay.
So don't just focus on the outcome, focus on the journey.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And don't tell me how smart you are, show me how smart you are. Yeah. And there's a difference. I think you can understand and appreciate the difference.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would say that's true too.
Okay, so we could go all the way without our first button push. We've had button pushes on all of these. Let's see if we can carry this on. So the final one, law firm RFP responses are usually way too long and often don't tell you enough about the things you actually want to know. Is that true?
No, I think law firms are generally.
Or are we going to get a press then on this one?
I think that's probably not true. I think there's opportunities for improvements all the time. So there you go. But I think especially our panel firms work very hard to make sure they're clear and understanding what they're doing. Sometimes we get too much and we need to break it down a little bit more. But that's a journey.
Great. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on, Shakeel Sameja, UBS. This has been super insightful. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.